Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon or early evening. First of all, before I begin, I'll just introduce myself and my colleague. I'm Dr. Stuart McClelland. I'm Deputy Director of the Energy and Environment Institute, and I set up the MSc in Renewable Energy that we deliver here at the University of Hull. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the programme, and I'm also the Programme Director for the programme. So I sort of oversee how it's run and how it operates. I'll also introduce my colleague, Ben Kolos, who will introduce himself.
Thanks, Stuart. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Ben Kolos. I'm a lecturer in renewable energy, and also my expertise is in carbon capture and carbon removal. So we're not just looking at the renewable energy portfolio, some of the syllabus, as we'll explain later on. We'll also look at how renewable energy could be applied to reduce carbon.
Okay, so we're going to give you a brief presentation that gives you an overview of what the programme's like. You'll see from the slide here, it's a very interactive programme. You can see these are students visiting two of the field sites that we use, obviously looking at a local wind farm, the picture on the left there, and over on the right, a local solar farm that we also take students to visit. So it's very much focused on renewable energy. But what I would like to say is that during the course of the presentation, if you have any questions, then please type them in online. Ben will be monitoring that. If he needs to stop me, if there's something I have to clarify as we are going through the presentation, he'll let me know. But otherwise, we'll pick up on all those questions at the end. So if when we're going through, there's anything else that you'd like to know, other information you'd like to find out, just type it in and we'll be able to answer those questions and let you know how it works. Okay, so why study renewable energy? Why is it so important? I think just to give you some of the context, if we look at the 2019 data for greenhouse gas emissions, you can see that electricity generation itself was responsible for 25% of greenhouse gas emissions. This is in the UK. Transport, 33%. Businesses and public buildings, 20%. Homes, 18%. And a very small amount associated with industrial process and agriculture. But what that's really telling us is that the climate, which the issues that we face in terms of climate change are driven by greenhouse gas emissions, is really a problem that's associated with energy, both in terms of electricity generation, and you can see that, as the diagram shows, is responsible for 25% of emissions in the UK, but also our use of energy in terms of heating, building, etc., of homes and businesses, and also transport itself. And that's really why renewable energy is so important, because our energy use drives those greenhouse gas emissions, and that drives the climate problem that we're facing today. But if we think in a bit more detail about why we need to think about renewable energy and what the problems are, there's several graphs on here, there's a lot of information on the screen here, but this is all about what's actually happening today. So if you look at the data that exists on what's happening with greenhouse gas emissions, if we look at the change between 1990 to 2022, so a period over 30 years, greenhouse gas emissions decreased substantially, so almost 50% less. But you'll notice that that change was relatively small over the last year. This is from official government data from the UK, looking at how we've changed our energy usage. And one of the important things to recognise here is that if we look at energy supply and transport and sort of the public use of energy, there were actually increases in 2021 compared to 2022. So some of those sectors were actually causing more greenhouse gas emissions. And actually the small amounts of savings that happened were due to decreases in residential energy usage. So you can see it's really still a very current and very important issue to think about how we decarbonise our energy sector. We're not there yet, essentially. Whilst there's been big changes made over that longer period of time, particularly with the uptake of more renewable energies in the UK, we haven't exactly solved the problem. And this is why renewable energy and studying and understanding renewable energy is so important today. Now, if we think about why study it, it's also important to think about, well, what will that lead to in the future? currently it's estimated that the UK renewable energy workforce employs about 30,000 people. And you can see that sort of employment is partly driven by that significant increase, if you look at the diagram on the left there, in terms of how much energy is being generated over time. And you can see on that graph, it shows the increase in hydropower, which is relatively small, big increases in solar PV and in wind power, but also increases in bioenergy and waste energy production. All of that increase in renewable energy production has led to a large increase in the workforce. But really, that's the sort of tip of the iceberg. This transformation that's going to happen, if we're going to further reduce greenhouse gas emissions, further sort of take on the challenges of reducing our carbon footprint and taking on board renewable energies, we're going to look at significant increases in the number of people who are employed in the renewable energy sector. Estimates made by the National Grid, which is obviously in the UK, is responsible for delivering energy to homes and businesses. They suggest that 117,000 people will be needed in the renewable energy industry by 2030. And the projections are that that requirement is going to grow even further in the future. So there's a big demand for roles. And you might wonder, well, what sort of jobs are there in the renewable energy sector? And the answer to that is it's huge and vast. Now, you maybe can't read all of the text on here, and you can see there's lots of images of different people. This is looking at just wind energy by itself and thinking about the types of jobs that there are. And you can see that there's people working in everything from cables, with JDR cables. We do all the cabling to interconnect the offshore wind turbines to land. There's people working in renewables UK, who are a sort of trade sector body responsible for how we deliver renewable energy. And then there are lots of jobs working with offshore wind manufacturing companies, the companies that actually make the large turbines, so Siemens Gamesa, Vestas, companies like that, working with EDF in renewables energy. But also there's lots of roles within those. So even working for a company like Ørsted, they need people doing everything from managing the logistics of the operations and maintenance through to people who are planning where they might build wind farms or predicting the future needs and demands of electricity supply. So there's a huge range of jobs in all sorts of different sectors. And really that's what our program is all about, is giving you the breadth of understanding and capabilities so that you can fit into a whole range of different roles. And just to give you an idea of some of the jobs that people have gone on to do. So these are people that have recently graduated from our renewable energy program. People have gone into being things like renewable energy consultants, project managers working at research centres, environmental advisors working for Siemens Energy. We have somebody who's gone to work with East Riding of Yorkshire Council to be an energy officer, a GIS analyst working with Statistics Canada, so looking at analysing renewable energy across all of Canada. Some people go on to do PhDs. So we've had a PhD student gone on to the University of Strathclyde looking at wind and marine energy systems. A colleague who went on to work with Ørsted and is now a senior marine and helicopter coordinator. You can see the range of roles that are potentially involved in delivering renewable energy at scale. Project managers, again, at renewable energy, and an environmental technical analyst working in Cairo in their regional centre for renewable energy. So there's a vast range of potential jobs which are all tied into and relate to the renewable energy industry. And this programme is all about giving you some of the broader understanding that you can fit into a whole range of these different roles. And then if we think about it, why come and study here at the University of Hull? Why is this a good place to come and think about and understand more about renewable energy? Well, the key to that is that the Humber Estuary itself is often termed the energy estuary. So about 24% of UK energy passes through the region. And that's related to either oil refineries, where on the south bank of the Humber Estuary, we have significant large port installations where not only is the oil imported, but it's also refined for distribution around about the UK. We also have one of the largest power stations in Europe, So Drax is a very large power station, which over the last few years has been repowered so that instead of running on coal, it runs on bioenergy. And we also have a whole series of solar and wind energy opportunities, particularly the large Siemens Gamesa factory, which is based in the city of Hull, where a large number of the offshore wind turbines are constructed and then shipped out. And you'll see on that map there those sort of blocky areas in the middle of the North Sea, just off the Humber estuary, where we are either have built or are planning to build or are proposing to build offshore wind farms. And a huge number of the turbines that end up in the North Sea are actually manufactured in Hull and shipped out and then installed in the North Sea. So it's a significant focus for renewable energies through the production. But there's also a significant focus in the Humber estuary in terms of carbon capture, because not only does the estuary, not only does it act as the home for an awful lot of energy production, but it also is the home of some very significant industrial complexes, which in themselves emit significant amounts of carbon dioxide. And again, what this course is all about, as Ben mentioned right at the beginning, particularly his research interest, is all about how do we bring those things together, because it's not just about generating renewable energy, but it's also about moving the economy on to be to have a much lower carbon footprint, essentially. And that requires integration of both industrial activities and also energy production. And that's one of the key reasons why the Humber estuary is so important for renewables. So to tell you a little bit more about the course, essentially the master's course runs across 3 trimesters. That covers the academic year. So trimester 1 happens before Christmas. Trimester 2 runs from January through to about May time, and then trimester 3 runs across the summer, and the course finishes again then in September. So in trimester 1, you study 3 20-credit modules, and the same again in trimester 2. That makes up 120 credits in total of taught modules. And then in trimester 3, you undertake your research dissertation, which is worth 60 credits. So overall, the same as all master's courses in the UK, you study for 180 credits. In trimester 1 then, the 3 modules that you'll study are Principles of Renewable Energy, Research Issues in Renewable Energy, and Research Skills. And then in trimester 2, you go on to Low Carbon Energy Solutions, Applied Renewable Energy, and Environmental Impact Assessments. And the different colouring there is because the green courses are courses that are just taken by renewable energy students. The 2 courses in blue there, we share with another course run by the School of Environmental Sciences called Environmental Change and Management. And that's really where we tie into this larger picture, both of understanding research skills that you need for your research dissertation, but also this larger picture of thinking about what the environmental impacts are of renewable energy, because we can't look at it in isolation. It doesn't stand alone by itself, and we have to think about how it would be integrated into the wider environment. I'll say a little bit more about the modules in the next couple of slides, and also tell you a little bit more about the dissertation. So in trimester 1, you'll study these 3 modules all together. So they run throughout the semester. In the Principles of Renewable Energy, we introduce you to the main forms of renewable energy and focus on the technology and resource availability associated with each of the different types of renewable energy. It's not an engineering program that we're teaching you here. We're not teaching you how to build a solar panel or how to build a wind turbine. What we're telling you about is how they operate and the technologies that they use, and therefore what resource is available from each of those different types of renewable energy. So we're giving you that breadth of understanding of a range of technologies and how they can be applied. In the module on research issues in renewable energy, this is part of starting to develop your skills for undertaking your own individual research in your dissertation project. And what we do is we get you to work in small teams to actively research current topics in renewable energy so that you develop your own knowledge and understanding, and you also key thing that happens here is you learn skills in how to do presentations. So the module is focused around about doing presentations, and you'll work in these small groups to deliver presentations to your fellow students. And that gives you a really valuable skill set, which you'll be able to take to any future employer, both of being able to look at and develop your own small research project, but also to present the results and do that on a very tight timeline. So it's a great opportunity for learning skills. And then following on from that, you'll also start to learn about project management, which again, apart from learning the research skills, the project management side of things then fits in to helping you develop your own dissertation project. And finally, the 20 credit module that we offer on research skills is all about helping you understand how to deal with research data and how to analyze research data. And those, again, those skills are really important for your dissertation. So we're giving you those building blocks to go on and do a really excellent dissertation project. In trimester 2, again, it's 3 20 credit modules that you study in parallel. So Ben leads low carbon energy solutions. I should have said also in the last slide that he leads the research issues module as well. But in low carbon energy solutions, you develop a broad understanding of low carbon energy developments and how the use of renewable energy influences carbon management, and learn about how you quantify carbon and understand how the performance of different ways in which we can manage carbon can be affected. Following on from that, you look at applied renewable energy, and that has a real industry focus. You saw on the first slide that I showed you students out in the field visiting renewable energy sites, both a wind turbine and a solar farm. And this module is all about having the opportunity to take site visits to go and see renewable energy production, but also having guest lectures from industry professionals who actually run those sites and actually develop those renewable energies. So you get a real world understanding of how it actually works. And that's linked into a number of practical exercises where you learn about renewables yourself. And that also enables you to improve your own analytical skills and your understanding of how renewable energies work. Then the final module is looking at environmental impact assessments. And in this module, you learn about the socioeconomic, ecological, environmental, aesthetic, and legislative aspects of environmental impact assessments, which are essential for any renewable energy development. And it gives you the skills to be able to critically evaluate an environmental impact assessment and understand its importance and how one can be developed for a potential renewable energy development. Then finally, in trimester 3, you do your research dissertation. Now, every dissertation is different, and what I put up here are a number of pictures that show you some of the field trips that students have undertaken in earlier modules. So that's things like in the top left there, visiting Ørsted, visiting again a solar farm. The picture in the bottom there is a local battery site where we have one of the Tesla battery installations very near to Hull. The picture in the middle there of lots of people in a factory is actually inside the Drax power station. And then up in the top right there, there's one picture of students visiting a waste energy processing plant, and then also a visit that was taken to a local hydropower plant and learning something about how Archimedes screw facilities work. So these are lots of different visits. And the reason I put these pictures up is because every dissertation is different. And doing the course is what will give you the inspiration for what you'd like to study for your own dissertation. And what we provide is the opportunity for every student to develop their own dissertation in an area of renewable energy that they're interested in. We will support you to do that and follow something that you're interested in and where you probably would like to develop your career further. And often students take the opportunity then to engage with local companies and potentially work with a local company to develop their dissertation in something that you've found interesting during the course that we can then support you with. You spend about 3 months doing your dissertation, and we've recently developed a new way of assessing our dissertation. So actually you write a much shorter dissertation than people would have done previously, but you write a dissertation now that's like an academic paper. So you're learning the skills of how to write very concisely and write a very brief report to explain the topic you're looking at. And then there's also a presentation that you give in order to explain what you found in your research. And we find what this does is this gives you really good transferable skills that are really suitable for employers. So rather than writing just a very long report at the end of your dissertation, you do things which are much more proactive and much more favoured by potential employers. Just to give you an example, this is one of our recent graduates from the renewable energy course, a quote that she's given, which I think sort of sums up the type of offer that we have here in terms of the programme. The student had done an undergraduate programme in an engineer and says that she thinks like an engineer, but what was important about this course and what renewable energy course did for her, she was able to work with biologists, electrical engineers, environmental scientists, and actually bringing in a whole range of collaborations to learn about the much wider perspectives, to really understand how renewables fit into the modern society. So just to finish off then my presentation, and then we'll move on to answering questions that people have. Essentially, the MSc in Renewable Energy that we offer at the Energy and Environment Institute here at Hull is a very broad, multidisciplinary view of what renewable energy is, and it's directly aimed at giving you the skills for employability. And you'll have the opportunity to study in the emerging hub of renewable energy in the UK. And really the Humber Estuary is the focus of where that's happening at the moment. So there's lots of opportunities. As you'll have seen from the pictures, field trips around about locally, you get the chance to visit every type of renewable energy and find out something about it, because it is all happening in this local area. So thank you. On the screen there, you'll see there is a QR code. So if you're interested in following up, you probably have already looked at the university website. That QR code will take you straight to the renewable energy website, and you can follow on through the application procedure or find out more information directly from there. And hopefully we'll see you joining us in September 2024. Thank you.
Thank you.